we're just going to transition real quick into another album I don't really have a lot to say on. The latest
I do.
Swain album, Negative Space. Swain, American alternative rock band. They're currently signed to N Hits Records, and they put in an album 2016 called The Long Dark Blue, and that's what I'm familiar with them. But I listened to The Long Dark Blue the other day because I heard good things since 2016, but I've never checked them out. And I knew this album was coming out, and I was interested to see what was the haps with it. And I don't remember any of it. I listened to the entire thing. I don't remember anything about it. So and that's on this. I'm putting that on this album more on me.
Yeah.
Because I was fully paying attention to it, and I still can't remember.
So I've had two different experiences listening to this album by
Talking to the
Swain.
mic, big boy.
Give me a moment. I had two experiences listening and preparing this review for this album by Swain. The first was the first time I listened to it, where I hated it because it was just really bland, shitty ripoffs of Alice in Chains and Seaver and late 90s, early 2000s alternative and post-grunge, and taking some of the worst elements. There's some Seaver songs that are tolerable. Most of them suck.
Most of them were used as WWE theme music.
Yeah, and then like Alice in Chains has decent moments, but the vast majority of it I just find intolerable, and it goes on too long like this album does. And so that was my first experience of just hating it for what it was. Then I learned that Swain used to be called, this is the same band, but they changed their name. They used to be called This Routine Is Hell. This Routine Is Hell is a punk band that I used to just kind of loosely follow. I'd listen to their albums as they come out. I've enjoyed them. I'd wait for the next one, but I wouldn't actively follow the band, which is why I never knew that they changed their name to Swain, because I wasn't following them close enough. I learned this when I was doing research for this album, like, okay, who the hell is Swain? Where did they come from? And I found that they had taken the last This Routine Is Hell album, Howl, and re-released it under the Swain name. And I was like, oh, that's why I couldn't find this on iTunes anymore, because they took This Routine's version off, or wherever the hell it was. And so I was like, okay. This made me hate the album more, because I then went back and re-listened to all the This Routine Is Hell albums, which are great mix of hardcore punk and sludge. It's a good mid-tempo in between the two. It's with aggression and very clear for hardcore clean vocal performances with the growliness, which is hard to do, get the growl but still make it very clean and understandable. So they were just a really good fun. They weren't a band I'd be oh man, they're one of the greatest punk bands ever, but they're a good punk band. They're a band that made releases worth paying attention to when they came out and going back to every once in a while. And then they changed their name to Swain, and they released their first EP. The same year they released the Howl album as This Routine Is Hell. And they said that they changed their name to Swain because they wanted to start going a different style, and they said it's such a drastically different style that it needs a new name. The thing is though, if you actually listen to their first EP and then their first album as Swain, there's still a lot of their punk elements there. They just started mixing in a lot of early grunge, Nirvana era grunge, and it works, especially on the first EP. It falters a little bit sometimes on their first album, but it's a nice mix of punk vocals and punk aggression and punk themes, but within adding the kind of grungy elements. It creates an interesting blend. It'd be if Show Me the Body started out as with Dog Whistle and then made the punk and hip hop thing. Okay, they started punk and are mixing their elements. It's kind of cool. But then imagine if Show Me the Body went and then just made a pure hip hop album after that, which would have sucked. Which is what they did by going with this album, which is just pure shitty grunge and post grunge. And it made me dislike this album even more because now I put in context, this is a band that was a good punk band. And then a interesting combination of punk and grunge, and then they just fucking forgot about all of their punk and became just a terrible ripoff of grunge.
For me, why I dislike this album is I sat through it and I cannot remember it.
I remember it because I remember how much I hated it.
Because for me, what I remember how the song structure has the same thing where it's only really benefiting on what major instruments they can get in the background.
Yeah.
Whether it's huge strings, whether it's bells, or a trumpet or a saxophone or something like that. Some jazz style instrumentation that they can throw in the background.
Yeah.
It can only be benefited by that. all these tracks move at the pace of the snail. All these tracks have these very melancholic vocals, like Damon Albarn's style of like passion, which is like none.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have that Damon Albarn sense of like charisma or anything where it's like complimenting to it. It just moves very slow and melancholic, and it just doesn't work for me.
Everything that made them like this routine as hell is gone. Like the vocals are completely different. He doesn't sound the same at all, even from the last Swain album. He sounds like he's doing his best Seaver impression.
Yeah.
And it sucks because Seaver sucks. And it's so weird. And then they bring in like a guest vocalist on Big Dumb Boy, which I was listening to of Max, and she literally described her as, she sounds like that girl in high school who thinks she can sing, so she sings all the time. Everybody just gets annoyed.
It reminded me of the last American Football album, which was just really bad emo.
Yeah.
It reminded me of that collaboration with Haley Williams, where it's just like the collaboration didn't live up to snuff. The two vocalists just really didn't have anything in common with each other.
This is just a very weak album, which on its own, without of context, it's a weak ripoff of an era of music that doesn't exist anymore for a reason. And in context, it's a band that was doing something kind of interesting and doing the complete opposite of what made it interesting. Yeah. Taking only the worst parts of what that combination was and focusing on that.
Yeah.
Like if they had kept like trying to develop the grunge mixed of punk, that would have been interesting. If they had like kept pushing that element further and like trying to develop it better. Unlike Show Me the Body, which like needed to get rid of their hip hop thing and go focus on punk because that's what they were best at. They were at their like most interesting and best when they were trying to combine the two, and they just ignored the punk, the thing that they actually understood and did naturally.
Yeah. Keep in mind that I'll score a few times meaningless right now at this current moment. I'm not even gonna give it a score because I feel like the amount of effort I put in this review is so minimal, and I'll be admitted, like I couldn't relate to this album. There wasn't anything negative that related to me, or like I could acknowledge. There isn't anything super polished, but I acknowledge it. I'm just giving it a non-applicable at 10. Yeah. An A out of 10.
Yeah, I'm giving it a 1.
Yeah. But you actually have decent statements. I just have,
you forget it.
I forget it. It's very forgettable. And that's it. Moving on.